Galnet News Digest, 24th of October, 3305. We read the news so you don't have to. In this week's news, we know who's trying to kill us, and now we're trying to kill them. Mutant Cabbage-Muncher threatens Sauerkraut stocks. Fleet carriers grounded amid safety fears. Pilots Federation apologises. We know who's trying to kill us, and now we're trying to kill them. A bunch of militant drug activists are behind the bubble-wide blight that's been causing drastic food shortages, according to the Superpower Task Force charged with investigating. Still sore about their onion head crops being bombarded with defoliant by the Federation 4.5 years ago, the so-called Scythe of Panem have turned a version of that very same defoliant to use, destroying food crops across the galaxy. By mixing it into Rockforth EX7 fertilizer, which was being sold at promotional prices, the terrorists were guaranteed excellent distribution and wide-ranging crop failure. It appears that the terrorists contaminated the fertilizer in manufacturing plants in the Reedquat system. These are not the primary manufacturing facilities of the giant Rockforth Corporation, which is based in Aguada, and it may have been that security at the Reedquat sites was relatively lax. The Tri-Superpower Task Force has tracked the Scythe of Panem down to Quator, where a battle to wipe out the activist cells is now underway. According to Gino Borstein, speaking on behalf of the task force, the terrorist group responded to attempts to eliminate it with unprovoked violence. It is not clear on which side the East India Company, which now controls the onion head trade, will be fighting. The seeds of this violence were sown in December 3300, when the Federation banned onion head. This was followed up by months of carpet bombing of crops, when then Federal President Jasmina Halsey ordered the elimination of several strains of onion head, including the original Capofornacis strain. Jasmina Halsey is now an alien-loving hippie living in Alioth, but her military legacy clearly outlives her presidency. All commanders are invited to take part in the rout of this dangerous collection of militant farmers from Panem. And may the odds be ever in your favour. Mutant Cabbage-Muncher threatens Sauerkraut stocks. In related news, the crop-consuming pathogen spread by the Scythe of Panem is reported to be taking on a life of its own, independent of the fertilizer vector and highly contagious. It is resistant to all known pesticides, impossible to quarantine, and brings a very real threat of the famine the soon-to-be extinct terrorists had been attempting. Only Big Pharma can save the galaxy now. Mason Chu of Vandermeer Corporation says he's been working with Neomedical Industries and seems hopeful that the two organisations can come up with an effective way of saving the galaxy's brassicas from certain destruction. Commanders can expect a call to transport the antidote to affected systems within days. Fleet carriers grounded amid safety fears. Manufacturers have been forced to admit that safety fears mean that the already delayed commercial availability of fleet carriers will be delayed still further, with the expected launch date moving back from December this year to June 3306. Originally billed as squadron fleet carriers and expected to be available at the end of 3304, the ships were rebranded and repurposed as personal fleet carriers when the first year-long delay was announced. This second delay has been caused by unforeseen software errors that have allegedly resulted in several fleet carrier-sized craters around the Saud Kruger plant on Matto. This delay leaves many of the "shut up and take my money" brigade of commanders waddling around with unfeasibly large virtual wallets. as they've been core mining and transporting fertiliser as if their lives depended on it, so they could be among the first to fly away with their very own personal fleet carrier. The nascent Fleet Carrier Owners Federation, known as FCOF, which has long been planning Christmas fleet carrier rallies, says it is now looking at holding its launch event as a summer barbecue at the LaveCon Exhibition and Conference Centre on the outskirts of the Cambridge megalopolis on Earth. Pilots Federation apologises. A spokesperson for the Pilots Federation has expressed their sorrow for the past wrongdoings of that organisation and have abased themselves at the 3-mile-high solid gold statue of the Yamiks, which has been created on Founders World as a humble tribute to the God that showed them the error of their ways. For it was Commander the Yamiks alone amongst pilots who stood up to the inefficient slackers within the Pilots Federation and said, no, this code is not good enough, there are too many bugs, and anyway, I'm not interested in fleet carriers. And listening to the wisdom of the Yamiks, the Pilots Federation realised that they had been wrong to try to deliver features, and that they should instead be refactoring their code in the manner that has long been taught by the adherents of the sainted Chris Roberts, that results in nothing actually being released, but some very beautiful code stored away in GitHub. Commander the Yamiks also commanded the Pilots Federation that all software releases should go through public beta testing, something that the Pilots Federation, cowed by the majesty of the living deity that is the Yamiks, were only too glad to humbly offer up to their community. In celebration, the galactic community has declared 22nd of October to be Galactic the Yamiks Day, a day on which bells throughout the galaxy will be rung with joy. And that's this week's Galnet News. Galnet News, we read the news so you don't have to.